Greetings, my name is Blaze and welcome to my channel. If you've not been here before, I talk about thought, theory, and my interpretation when it comes to things that I'm interested in. For today's video, I actually have a video request response for you. Today's video request comes from Elijah Zorn. So what I ended up doing is I had 3 questions from Elijah Zorn, and I'm going to break that into 3 separate videos because it looks like the request was for 3 different videos. So these are going to be 3 separate small videos where I'm answering questions, and I'm just going to splice the beginning piece and the end together. Let's see. Maybe a video on what tools. So I think at the end of the day, when it comes to spiritual tools, I feel like you don't need any at all. And I think part of this coincides with sort of that Taoist philosophy that I was talking about. So with Daiji Chuan, your entire body becomes a weapon. And when you use weapons, they're extensions of your own body. So I feel like in the spiritual world, when you use tools, they're an extension of you. When you talk about magic, spellcraft, whatever the case may be, if you're, let's take something you might do on a regular basis. Let's say you're cleansing a house. You can cleanse a house just by walking around and speaking some words. You can do this in any religion. I mean, almost every religion has some form of household cleansing that you can do or blessing. And you can do this with your belief alone. You speak with authority, you put your intent out there, you send out those vibrations, or you call in attention of your deity or spiritual being or guides or whatever you're working with. Because again, there's many different beings you can work with for household protection, depending on your faith. You can also get something as a medium to carry that vibrational intent and purpose. For an example, with some of the Druid stuff, you can work with the goddess Brigid, goddess who's associated with hearth and home, among other things like poetry, forge, and combat. But you can, and healing, big time on healing, you can take a bowl of water, consecrate it first. You could use salt, different herbs with it as well if you wanted to, but you would basically bless that first, and you can sprinkle the water as you're doing your household blessing. Some people will do smudging, where that's a Native American tradition, where you can take like sage, white sage. I have a video about using white sage, so I don't necessarily recommend it unless you grow it yourself. But you can burn sage, and you can use feathers to kind of waft it around the rooms as you go from room to room. You can burn other stuff. I believe there's a Scottish term, and it's not smudging, but there's a Scottish term for burning incense, and I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it does basically the same thing. You're burning a different herb, though. There's different herbs that you can burn. You can put pine needles around your house. There's a lot of different things that you can do to cleanse a space. So with that, those would be tools, in a way. You're using your bowl, you're using the water, so that, to me, that's kind of like using a tool. Now, using different stuff like a staff or a wand, to me, I consider these to be foci or focusing tools. It's the same thing. Like, right now, I'm not wearing my Mjolnir, but this here is essentially a type of tool. And I believe in the heathen Scandinavian traditions, I believe they even have like a word for it specifically. If I check my notes here, because I don't have it memorized. Again, I'm not an expert on everything. I'm not. I don't claim to be. I like what I like, but I think it's like Tolfer or something like that, I thought. Let's see. Terms. Luther. And I'll put that on the screen. Luther. Apparently, according to one of the people that I've researched, Erith Herger here on YouTube, specifically talks about statue figurine often depicting a deity used for talisman magic or divination purposes. So, yeah, I said that wrong. I think Tolfer is... I probably should have looked it up while I still had it there, but I believe that's like talisman magic type of deal, or using like amulet magic. But either way, this would be an example of a tool. And many people do wear some sort of a necklace on a regular basis or jewelry to depict. So as far as what I consider most useful of the tools that I've used beyond my own physical body, I would say wearing some sort of an amulet or talisman, because you can carry it with you. Tattoos, because you can put it in your skin and it's always with you. That would be an example of a very effective tool, in my opinion. Aside from that, I have found most use out of the staff and the wand, for me, personally. So the staff and the wand, I mean, they're not only physical representations, but it is really good when you're trying to ground and center. So if you do the grounding and centering techniques where you're trying to connect and balance yourself inside and out and connect with the world around you, having that staff which connects the above and below. Staves are also associated with air and intelligence and wisdom if you're going into elemental magic. So having that connection, the staff works great. You're walking with the staff in a circle and touching the ground with it, pounding it into the ground, giving you a mental image of when you're putting forth your intent, or even ending and beginning with a couple taps, like 3 taps at the beginning and the end. Again, symbolism in your head to help you with focusing and having that connection of above and below connected with all things. I think the staff is a great one. And then the wand itself, you can just point with your fingers, you can point with your hand, you can just use mental imagery without pointing at all. You could use an athame or a ritual knife or something like that as well. You could use a sword. You could use a rod instead. But a wand is nice, small, it's fun. Who doesn't like wands, especially if you're into magic? It's a great way to point and focus your intent at a specific spot. That's a representation of an extension of yourself. So I think wand and staff, wearing an amulet or a talisman, and tattoos, those would probably be my preferred tools. So that was the second video request from Elijah Zorn. Hopefully you found that interesting. I'll be posting the third one here in a few because that was the second one of 3 requests.